So the party was combing through the ruins of Tyre Bessel. They were now in the northwest quadrant, a place where, according to Dwarvish lore, all the forges and industrial might of Tyre Bessel had been located. Sadly, the dwarves were long dead. And now, this was the domain of the cult of evil elemental fire. Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Lore Friday for November 20th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Galabond, and tonight we are going to be talking about the Temple of Eternal Flame. This is a level 9 adventure, the last of the 4 temples in the second part, if you will. The second stage of the Princess of the Apocalypse campaign. The first stage was dealing with the above ground strongholds. The second phase is dealing with the underground temples in the ancient dwarven ruins. The third phase is going down into the fane of the Elder Elemental Eye and dealing with all of the actual nastiness that's going on down there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this particular adventure. And we will start, as we do usually, by looking at the beginning of the adventure area. We learn in the background that the northwest quarter of the ancient fortress served as a manufacturing center where great forges and foundries butted up against the natural resources necessary to craft weapons and armor, namely some open lava pits. And the lava provided heat and material, and where it flowed and sunk away again, rich veins of ore and gems were left behind in the natural tubes. So now the prophet of elemental fire, Vanifer, has come here and claimed this area for the Temple of Eternal Flame. And the lava tubes take about a mile to go from the surface down to this temple. And they join the underground temple to Scarlet Moon Hall. And then there are side tubes and mining tunnels that branch off that are not documented here, but could be used for any kinds of other types of things. If you wanted to make your party guess it the right way and they were coming from Scarlet Moon Hall, you could just map out a bunch of different things and have them go all sorts of ways, and they could just get lost in there trying to figure out how to go, if you're that type of DM. Now, I have set aside a page where it's on the map here so that we can look at the map as we're talking about this thing. Now, E1 right up here is the area where the map key begins, and this is the entrance from the lava tube. There's an arrow slit, 3 feet tall, 6 inches wide and unguarded. Behind the arrow slit is a passage leading to E6. There are hobgoblins, 4 hobgoblins and a hobgoblin captain here standing guard. And they will attack anybody who doesn't make the correct sign of the fire cult, or who doesn't give the correct password, fire is eternal, or doesn't convince them somehow that they really need to speak to the leaders of the cult. And if the third is true, then the hobgoblins will escort them to the leaders. So, one way or another, you got to deal with the hobgoblins. Column chamber. Um, there, there are all kinds of new humanoids introduced in 5e. Different sorts of fighters and priests and spellcasters that are all allied with the different cults, and they all have kind of similar power curves to each other. Um, but among those people in the cult of elemental fire are the CR5 Razor Blasts, um, who wear splint mail and who are basically fighters. Um, they uh, they're strength 16, con 16. Intelligence and wisdom of 9 and 10 respectively, so they are not casters of um, any significance. Okay, then we get to the niche hall area E3, which is along here. So these little niches um, have um, shadowy forms of dwarven warriors carved long ago. There's a tripwire, and there's a secret door. And the secret door is one that leads to a burial crypt for a pair of uh, dwarves. And if the party finds that secret door, they realize that the cult has not learned about this. So there's some untouched loot in that area, and quite a bit of it. Um, there are funerary masks that are worth 2,000 gold pieces each in there. Then there's crumbling barricades up here guarded by ogres. Um, and then, see, because this area here, well, no, wait, that doesn't go, anyway, okay, I think that's weird. That's kind of weird. Because, oh, no, that's not weird. E5, that goes over um, to the next temple area over. So I forget which one that is. I think it's the Earth. I want to say it's the Earth Temple because I think down at the bottom on the west you have air, on the east you have water, up above the water you have earth, and next to the earth you have fire. I think that's how it's laid out. Okay, then we get to the quarters of the first of the two leaders. E6 over here, or no, wait, right? Yeah, E6 is the place where Bastion, who's like the second in command for the cult of elemental fire, lives. And he is he's CR8 with an 18 charisma and a 12 strength, 15 constitution. So he's probably like a bard or something. And he guards the northern half of this complex. He, like all cults, there's power struggles, and he, of course, wants to be the boss. So he can be manipulated or parlayed with, or try to get the characters to go kill his boss. Of course, he doesn't really he doesn't really intend to leave anybody alive if they help him, but uh, uh, he is covetous of his boss's position, which, as any good cultist should be. Uh, Barracks. So there's barracks over here, and then there's room for priests, and a den for the ogres up here, and then a lair for the hobgoblins in the E10. Now, there are prisoners over here in E11. And the prisoners are um, very interesting. Um, there's um, there are um, there are salamanders in here, which are evil uh, fire elemental creatures. There are also Azers in here, which are neutral um, elemental fire creatures. And they are all being held prisoner by the cult. Now, there's an Efreet slaver that's in here in Area 13 that is keeping all of these guys bound up. Now, if the party members talk to these slaves, um, they might be willing to fight against the fire cult because of the fact that they themselves have been enslaved. The problem is the Azers and the Salamanders hate each other. So if you get the Azers on your side, you can't really fight with the Salamanders because it's a very high likelihood that the Salamanders will turn and start fighting the Azers. Um, and so if you choose to accept the services of one group, you can't really accept the services of the other. And if you let the one group go and you ask the other group to stay, well, then a clever DM might be able to um, show how the group that stayed behind resents trading one slave master for another slave master, in terms of, instead of thinking of the fire cult, the Efreet, as their slave master, now they think of the party as their slave master. Well, you asked us to help you. So you're just like, we need to be emancipated from you, man. Because you're just like enslaving us. You could throw that at your players to really make them hate you. Okay, so E12, there's a lava chasm. There is a stone bridge um, with a river of lava 40 feet below. And there's, the ceiling is 50 feet above. There's a mechanism controlling the flow of a lava, and it looks right here. It looks very ominous, but in fact, it's perfectly safe and operates. But it's a nice thing that you can sort of um, tell your players about, just to get them wondering what it is and distract them from things that are going on. Okay, now in the foundry itself, Area 13, the Foundry is led by an Efreet. CR11, Elemental Fire Creature. And he has a Razor Blast and 2 of the Eternal Flame Guardians. Once again, CR2 fighters. All right, and then they an Efreet aided by a Razor Blast and 2 Eternal Flame Guardians drives a Salamander and 3 Azers, forcing them to work the forges. So this is where you find out that these guys are all in here. Now, of course, they all hate their slave master, and they all will get punished if they uh, squabble in front of the slave master. So they don't do that. As soon as any disturbance happens here, the slaves all turn on the Efreet. And the Efreet will focus on the slaves while the cultists deal with the characters. Now, clearly what this is doing is this is trying to prevent the party from having to face the Efreet, the cultists, and all the fire slaves simultaneously. But, you know, if the players don't pay attention, or if they do something that gets the slaves fighting each other, then of course that could be real trouble for them. All right. If they kill or drive off the slavers, the rest of the temple will go on high alert, and that will mean that the party has much greater time, or a much harder time moving around without being detected. Now, there's also an elevator in this area, E14. It's actually a floating disc. How does it float? It's magic. It's a floating disc that operates as an elevator and has 3 levels, and it's at the top level right now. And there are command words to make it go down and make it go up. And it will go all the way down into the area of the Fane of the Elemental Eye and the Weeping Colossus, respectively. Okay, Ancient Armory. The weapons and armor are no good in this place because they are all so old. 15, where was 15? 15, 15. 15, I guess, is right here. And then 16 is a well. 17 is a mechanical room. So this is mechanical room 17. That's where all the steampunk stuff happens. And there's a library in 18, but all of the books are decayed and everything. There is a kennel with hellhounds in E19. Then 20 and 21 are storage rooms. 22 is a display hall. 23 is more barracks. 24, Ignatia. So there, Ignatia is a flame wrath. So a CR6 fire cultist. And so she's not a prisoner. Okay. Ignatia is a flame wrath. She's a fire cultist. She leads warriors outside and serves as watch commander for the hobgoblins. She is interrogating a prisoner here. A prisoner, the Crushing Wave Reaver, who is a prisoner from the water cult. because fire and water are diametrically opposed, of course. All right, there are some intact books here, which are very rare and valuable. Supplicant's Room um, in E25. So E25 is where the people who want to join the cult and are here as workers to try to prove their devotion, they live in there. And then the fire temple itself is in E26. So this temple area right here. And now the way this has worked in every one of these temples, the first temple that the character comes to, the leader is there. But after the party explores one of the temples, the other three leaders leave their own temple and go down to the fane of the Elder Elementali. The supposition is that they realize that the temples have come under attack and they are seeking help from the princes of elemental evil that they venerate to try to help them repel invaders. All right, so there's barricades, and these barricades keep people from going to the Temple of Air, Temple of Howling Hatred, over to the over to the east. All right, so 28. Wait, 28. No, to the south. Okay, sorry. 27. Yeah, they keep people going south to the air temple. Okay. So yeah, on the west to the north is fire. South is air. To the east and the south is water. To the north in the east is earth. Okay. So there's more barracks here, and there's the quarter of Lizzie Calderos. She is a mage, and she cultivates fire magnums, which are kind of like elemental imps, a little bit. And the these magnums are curious to know who the characters are, and they playfully try to set them on fire. Because that's just kind of the kind of thing that they do. All right. So then perhaps the most exotic and crazy thing in here is in E30, there is a chimera. Okay. The chimera, CR6 creature, large monstrosity. It has head of a dragon, head of a lion, head of a goat, and it flies like a dragon. And it has a treasure hoard. Then also in this area down in 31, of course, is the cult leader's quarters. So Vanifer has her quarters here. All right. The thing that I like the most about this adventure, like most of the other adventures in Temple of Howling Hatred, is just this map layout. You can use the entire 4 maps of these temples to make up sort of an underground dwarven stronghold, or an underground stronghold. Doesn't have to be of dwarves, but it can be of, you know, Duragar or Svervniflin or, you know, your game world, whatever kind of creatures may live underground. Maybe you're in some kind of game world where the atmosphere above ground is toxic and the only safe place to live is underground. So any race you find would be underground. This is a nice little thing here. Few details you'd want to adjust are things that make this obviously dwarven if you're going to have somebody other than dwarves be living here. But it's got all this nice machinery and mechanisms and such, and some uh, working forges and those types of things. All right. Uh, like I said, this comes as the fourth of the uh, temples, basically, that the characters will exist when they are in the middle section of the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign. And it's level 9 adventure. So I'd be curious in the comments, anybody that has actually played through this, what you thought about it, how it all played out, how your party, if you were the DM, how did your party react to all these things? If you were a player, how much of this did not track to what you all did? How much was different? What kinds of things there? Please let me know in the comments below. All right, I've been DM Galabon. This has been Lore Friday. If you like the stuff we're doing here on the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell so that you too can be notified anytime new content drops on the channel. And that is going to do it for this week's Lore Friday. Hope we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.